Okay, hi everybody, it's Casey. I'm here to do my presentation for Dr. Golden's class. I hope everyone's staying well and healthy. The agency that I'm going to be talking about for this project is Lockport Cares Homeless Shelter. I don't know if you guys can see the project, but I kind of did like a colorful background to make it pop a little bit. And so that's my cover page. And part one is pretty much the overview of the agency. Lockport Cares is obviously located in Lockport, 192 Genesee Street. And it's a voluntary nonprofit organization, meaning that it keeps running because of volunteers, and they get their money through charities, churches, things like that. So it's an agency that gets its help through the community. And its mission statement is to let anybody in who needs help, whether this is a single person looking for shelter or a whole family. It's a Christian-based community, and it also is a homeless shelter or agency that cares about the dignity and worth of a person, and it believes that everybody has dignity and is worth saving and helping no matter what they are going through. And it also believes that every person can be successful in the community. And the social work value is pretty much running off the same idea of the mission statement. It's believing that every person is worth and it should be respected and should be able to successfully successfully have a great task that can help within the community. So that's pretty much the overview. It's a homeless shelter that helps people in need.
Dope.
And the internal and external grievances is pretty straightforward from what I could find. The internal grievance is Alan Bush is the board president. There were no other presidents listed on the website, and I did check with Chris Yoder, who runs the agency. He's the main one. And then the external grievance is the Division of Shelter Oversight and Compliance. And as you can see, not much to that, but I was able to get a little red background here to make it pop a little more. So now this is still part one, the BSW program, Division of Labor, and program goals. Lockport Cares does not have a specific department. Everyone who volunteers there just does it based on the tasks that need to be done and things that need to be completed within the homeless shelter. And the goal of Lockport Cares, I can tell you from volunteering here myself, is to lift the spirits of residents. They do this through Bible study, which I believe they have every Tuesday or Wednesday night, one of those. And they also they continuously update information available regarding housing and employment for guests that are staying at the homeless shelter. And the important thing to know is they're able to measure these two things by how well the volunteer is getting a job or getting employment by they write it down in a book and keep track of it that way, and it lets the people know whether they are getting a job or getting home or whether they are still working on that. And they also do that with Bible study. If you decide to come, you write your name in a book, and that shows attendance, and that shows whether or not the two things that they want to do, whether these two goals are working or not, and how they keep track of it, basically by attendance, how they're doing, and also who shows up for Bible study, which is really cool, because when I was there, a lot of people showed up. And let's go to the next slide. So this is the fun part, in my opinion. It's the intake criteria and social provisions. So basically, you would be accepted for service if you are able to provide the proper documentation to be at the homeless shelter. And you also need to show sustainable income with your current employer, or at least if you had an employer. And you would be denied service if you were an alcoholic or using drugs, because there is a zero tolerance for any of that. So if you're showing any of those symptoms, you will not be allowed to be at the homeless shelter. They might have you actually try to go somewhere else. And social provisions, pretty straightforward. There is food, clothing, bathroom facilities, and beds at the homeless shelter, so everyone can stay in. I don't remember exactly how many beds there were, but there were quite a few, especially if there was a whole family staying there. And service delivery, all cleaning and cooking. Well, the cleaning comes from the volunteers, and the cooking, the meals, actually come from different people within the community that want to help with a meal each week. They sign up, and that's how they do that, which is really cool and generous of them. And let's make sure I'm on the right one. So that's not the right one. So the next one is funding and intake information, which was a little hard to find, but here's what I found. All funding for Lockport Cares comes from either donations by churches, individuals, and a very small portion of those donations comes from DSSS. No numbers were given. I tried calling and stuff like that and looking at the websites. No numbers were given. But I would say it's pretty stable because of the help they get. We get a lot of volunteers and a lot of help within the community to keep this shelter open. And the intake information, you would be accepted due to homelessness and proper documentation, which I said before. And proper, you need proof that your income is insufficient. And you can get this information based off me, Casey Stover, which I would be a volunteer at Lockport Cares. And in general, Chris Yoder does the intake stuff, which she is a worker. She's not a volunteer. She actually works at Lockport Cares and does all the intake and interview things. And so next slide. So this is the intake information, part 2. So if I were to do this, name, I came up with Lindsay Unick. She has no address right now because she is homeless. She has the type of way you can contact her. She does have a cell phone number. She was referred to by local police, and her presenting problem again was homelessness. And she doesn't have a family or children. She is a single woman who is 29, and her current employment, she is employed with Walmart, and she gets other benefits. She gets SNAP. She's a SNAP recipient, and her intake was accepted because she was able to provide all the proper documentation.
And was sober.
And was sober. I'm going backwards here. Let's go forward. Okay, so this was someone who would not be accepted into the program, and this goes along with that. Or not accepted into the homeless shelter, I should say. So intake conducted by Chris Yoder. This is actually based off a real person that I saw when I volunteered at the homeless shelter. I just switched his name. So the client name is Joseph Miller. He did not have an address because he had no place to live. The type of contact, he actually walked in with a friend who actually knew Chris, and they met that way. Presenting problem, homelessness. He has no place to go. And he was referred to by that friend that walked in with him at the homeless shelter. He was actually a resident of Erie County. He had no documentation whatsoever when he walked in, which is obviously a problem because they need that to know what they're getting into and know that you're actually homeless and don't have a job and stuff like that. He was definitely not over the age of 65. I would say he was in his mid-30s to early 40s. And he did have, or does have, a felony of DUI. He had an alcohol problem, and I believe he might have had a drug problem too. So that didn't work out. And he was not a sex offender, and the problem that he had while going in there, and even Chris said that he was currently kind of intoxicated and struggling with addiction and things like that. So they were not able to accept him because of the zero tolerance policy for drugs and alcohol. So his claim actually got denied. Not that it was a claim, because he was just going to see what he could do to be in there, but he was denied for now. So the agency that I would recommend him to, this is the agency referral and rationale, sorry, was the
Monsignor.
Monsignor Care and Chemical Dependency Treatment Program, which is in Buffalo, New York, 76 West. And I have the phone number on there on the screen. And I believed, when looking at what I could find for this person, that would be best, because it could help him with his problems and his drug and alcohol problems as well. If they have a good dependency program. So if you do struggle with drugs and alcohol, you can go there. It's a little bit of a drive, but I thought of the 3 agencies that I found, that would be the best one for him. And now we're at the human rights violation, which is part 3 of this assignment. So no discrimination, pretty self-explanatory that they try to follow at Lockport Cares. No one should discriminate because of age, race, color, disability, maternal status, job employment, things like that. And if Lockport Cares does not follow this, they would get in trouble, and there would be a claim against them, and they would be denying people service of delivery as well as their provisions, which would not be right because of their color of skin. It's, as we all know, it would be wrong to do because they'd be discriminating against a person. And the other one I came up with is no unfair detainment, which basically means no one should be staying at Lockport Cares against their will, because if they find a place to go or job, they should be able to leave whenever they choose, even if they didn't stay as long as they thought they were going to. They should be able to stay at Lockport Cares as long or as short as they need to. And if they go against that, they'd be going against the violation of human rights through their service delivery. So if they need to leave because they found a job or a home and they don't let them leave, then that's a problem, and they're violating a person's rights. Let's go to the next one. So human rights violations and corrections. So this one is basically going off human rights as well. The Division of Shelter Oversight and Compliance. It's the direct external grievance body. This would be one of the agencies that you would report to first if you had a problem, and hopefully it wouldn't get that far, but it's nice to know that there are places or things out there to help you if you feel like something or someone is going against your rights. And then the new policy regulation that I came up with is employees are not permitted to discriminate against clients for any reason, whether this is racial or anything like that, like I just discussed. Let's see. So since where's more appropriate? they really need to state what their needs are, and discrimination should not be allowed at this homeless shelter, no matter what anybody's situation is. And I can say at Lockport Cares, they do not discriminate against anybody, at least not for ethnical, racial background. The only time they deny you is, again, the drug or alcohol or not the proper documentation. Okay, let's see what slide I'm on because I lost track. Yep, I'm on this one. So this is part 4, agency closure and
Relocation.
relocation, part 4. So basically, if Dr. Golden or any of you were gonna shut us down, where would all our clients go? And the first one I came up with as a possibility is, and the one I actually chose is the first one, which is Community Missions of Niagara Frontier, and it's in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, New York, and I also have the phone number on here. And I chose this specific one for us all to go to if Lockport Cares got shut down because they would include and offer a wide range of services that are more helpful and more efficient than the Catholic Charities one. Although if this agency didn't work out, Catholic Charities is also an option. But I believe this one also helps with drinking and stuff like that. So this would be a little more better of an option if everyone had to get out of Lockport Cares. I would recommend going here, even though it might be a little bit of a drive for some people. And like I said, Catholic Charities is also an option.
But it's in a different county.
It's in a different county, yeah. It's in Buffalo, New York. And I have the phone number here. And it's also an option. They may not be as helpful, and it may be harder to smooth and transition as well. Transition. So this is the first one I would pick. But if you couldn't go to that one, say they were all filled up, Catholic Charities is where you could also go. Okay, supervisor relationship goals. This is part 5, so hopefully I'm not boring you. Oh yeah, we're almost done here. So this is the part where I would say what I would get along with my supervisor and what I would have problems with my supervisor. So something that I personally would consider to have a positive and productive relationship with my supervisor would be one who is willing to listen to my ideas and not override me just because of my disability or either because I'm more low status than them. I would like a supervisor who would, just listen to my ideas and be a team leader pretty much, and listen to what I have to say, no matter if they have a different opinion. And so that basically goes out this. An example of a supervisor who I could not get along with would be someone who is not willing to listen to my ideas, and someone who overrides me because of authority. And it's also, and this is an important one, someone who is ignoring the needs of a client who really needs help. That's a big one, especially in the social work field. Alright, I'm just gonna not read all this, but I'm gonna scan through it. This is part 5, continued, because there's a lot here. So basically, it's an individual with a disability. For me, that's personal, obviously, because I have a disability, which is cerebral palsy, for those of you that didn't know. I foresee myself encountering with at least one person through my career who has a problem because I have a disability, and obviously because I'm in a wheelchair, so there's no hiding that. So, if I had a problem, I would just try to talk to them and ensure them that I can do this job just as well as somebody who is able to walk can do this job, or that I'm wanting to help them as much and help them to my full potential. And, but if I could not, say they weren't willing to work with me or open up because the disability thing bothered them or the wheelchair thing, I would have to recommend them to a different social worker, and because I wouldn't want to put my job at risk or hurt the client's feelings, so I would just recommend them to a social worker. And another example of this, I had to come up with 3, as you all know from the project. Let's say I'm a woman, which I am, and unfortunately this society, we tend to favor men more. They tend to get the higher end of the stick, they say. So if I'm a woman, it might be a little harder to give me credit because I'm a woman, and I might have, different clients that harass me, or somebody in the workforce even harass me. And then if that was the case, if worse got to worse, I would have to report the incident to HR, which you never want to do. And then the last one, I also think there may come a time that a client might assume I am less able to help them due to my disability, which leads up to the first one. Some of the best social workers will have trouble getting different people to open up to their problems, and just want to make sure. Sorry, that's my dog, everybody. Just want to make sure I'm not repeating myself here. I would, again, assure them that I would help them to the best of my ability, and I would make sure that they feel confident in me as well. So basically, that's all I'm discussing here. See, next slide. And last but not least, part 6. So, if my dog will stop barking,
Not likely.
I will go on with part 6, which is the ethical and conflict resolution. Okay, so in this case, I was a transferred client. Wait, hang on a minute, I can't read this. In this case, that I was a transferred client, made aware of the social provisions worker